Okay, hello everyone. Today I want to talk about a film camera. This is my first film camera. It's called the Olympus Stylus, or also known as the Olympus Mju. This is quite a nice camera. It's very simple to operate and it's wonderfully sharp. When I first started film photography, I had a friend who used this camera, and I went back home to my parents' house and they actually had one lying around too, so I picked it up. Ask your parents or grandparents, they might have something cool kicking around if you want to get into film photography. Anyway, I picked this up and started shooting with it. So it's pretty simple to operate. You just put the film in, put it in here, and then drag the leader into the little arrow there, close it shut. And boom, you have a pretty nice little package here. It's a automatic exposure camera. So whatever film you put in has to be DX coded. Basically, it's a way for the film to tell your camera how much ISO the film has. So the Olympus Stylus is really nice because it's pretty sharp and it's such a small form factor that it's really easy and convenient to carry around with you. I've put this simply in my pocket and taken it out while carrying around another camera. So it's really easy to operate if you want something that you're going to go traveling with, or if you just don't want to have the hassle of bringing a camera around. That's one thing that I really like about the point and shoot cameras that can't really be replicated by the mirrorless ones. The mirrorless ones are just going to be heavier than this camera. This camera is all plastic. I think the lens, I guess there's a little bit of glass there on the lens, and this camera has flash. So it's pretty much got everything you need to make amazing pictures. And of course, film is going to help you a lot with the exposure. So you don't have to worry about being underexposed or overexposed, when you're shooting. The camera will automatically change the aperture and shutter speed for you. And I've had brilliant results from this camera. Basically, what my friend taught me when I first started using this camera was at the top there's a flash button, and during the daytime we want to turn the flash off because this camera has a very, very sensitive flash meter for whatever reason. So if you keep the flash on, you'll be flashing pretty much all the time outside, even during daylight, which can be good for some portraits, but we want to take clean, film-like photos. I'm into that very pastel type of look. I turn the flash off by pressing this button, and then we start shooting. The viewfinder is quite small, so you'll have to get used to that, and it's not very bright. My viewfinder is a little hazy, so I have to just keep in mind that whatever I see in the viewfinder isn't necessarily going to be what it looks like in real life when I get the scans back. Other than that, this is quite a nice camera. It's got a little mount at the bottom if you ever wanted to put this on a tripod. I have not tried that, but I suppose you could get some auto long exposures from this camera. I'm curious to see how those would turn out. But yeah, be very careful with this camera. I tend to spin it around like this. How to operate this camera is pretty simple. So you pull back the front end and then you click the button, and usually it has to focus when you press it. So if you half press it, the red light turns on and you can focus it. Once you're done focusing, you can full press it and then it'll fire. Now you'll notice at the top of this camera, it says E right now. That's because it's empty. But if I put some film in here, it'll turn to 1. And I find with this camera, I can usually get 37 to 38 exposures because for whatever reason, the film leader in here, they're really efficient with the use of space. So if you're on your 36th exposure or your 35th exposure, just keep in mind that you do have an extra few pictures in here. And I've never had any issues with overlapping exposures on this camera, so don't worry about overlapping. Anyway, I think that's about it for this camera. It's a really good buy. If you can find this thrifting for cheap, I think they go for about $100. Then you can definitely pick it up, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy using it. This is the Olympus Mju I. So it's got a 35mm 3.5 lens. There's a Mju II that has a 35mm 2.8 lens. If you're big into night photography or you just want that faster aperture, the Mju II is definitely a better choice. But for me, just using this 3.5 is good enough. I've found the shots I've taken with this at night are pretty good, even with the 3.5 lens. I hope you enjoyed this review, and yeah, get yourself a film camera. You know, this is such a convenient and easy way to take some photos. You know, photos really help you remember what's going on around you. Without taking photos, I totally forget where I am and what I'm doing, but as soon as I start clicking that shutter, I remember everything that I did that day. You know, you look at a photo a long time ago and you're like, oh, I remember what I did that day. I was here, I was at that place, and I was with my friend and we took some photos together. I think that's really cool. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the review, and get yourself a Mju. I'll see you in the next one.